already water here. Look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
So fun.
Well, now I've got 2 weeks worth of water.
I was just really worried you'd get dehydrated and you.
I like to keep my body in a low state of dehydration all the time. It's medically advised. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We're here with Kristin Wollett with As a Last Resort. And very excited to have you all here. Yeah. So, first of all, I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about this wonderful book. Just tell us what it's about.
I would love to. I think Nicole wants to say one thing really quick, though.
Oh,
about you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just wondering.
I know. It's okay.
It's the dehydration.
I know.
She's dehydrated. Don't hold it against her.
Literally stronger brain. Yeah, no, it's okay. Welcome to the Gilded Page to see both Alicia Thompson talks with Kristin Wollett. Yes, thank you. Couple things. So afterwards, Kristin will be signing directly in the back, and Alicia will have her books up here. And well, she can purchase her books back there. She will sign her books up here. Sorry, see, I'm all off my game.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
She's also dehydrated.
Here, have a water. Have a water.
So a little bit about both of them. Kristin Wollett is an actor with over a decade under her belt. Her debut novel, As a Last Resort, released in September 2025. In her free time, Kristin writes romantic comedies and dreams about who she can bribe to make them into movies. If they do get made into movies, like I did go to Silver Theater. So.
I'll keep that in mind.
Totally.
Movie release party?
Yes. She lives in Florida with her husband and 5 children. I'm not sure where she found the time to write, but yes. Alicia Thompson is a writer, reader, and lover of baseball. Her novels include Love in the Time of Serial Killers, With Love from Cold World, The Art of Catching Feelings, and Never Been Shipped. She lives in sunny Central Florida with her husband, 2 children, and a cat named Luna. Welcome.
Also a cat named Pickles. I feel bad for Pickles. Because she was added after, so I feel bad. Yeah.
But notice how we have our 2 cats' names, but we don't know her children's names.
Well, in your case, there's too many. You only have so many words to use.
That's true.
All right, so that's why they had turned off my mic, was so that I couldn't do that. All right, so now that we're allowed to get started, and I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. Tell us about this wonderful book, which I am obsessed with. I really love this book.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, so As a Last Resort follows Samantha. I'm going to do a no spoiler synopsis just in case you haven't read it yet. And so it follows Samantha. She is a resort developer who lives in New York City. She ran away up there to get away from a lot of the ghosts of her hometown. But she gets sent back there for a project, and she runs into her ex-best friend's older brother, who happens to be a former crush of hers. And she basically has to decide throughout the journey of the book if the ghosts of her past are worth running away from, and if that's scarier to her than falling in love. And so that's kind of the non-spoiler version of the book.
And it's so good. What was the first spark of the idea for the book?
So I was sitting on the beach in Bel Air Beach. It was spring break of March of 2022. And I was on a free write. Have you seen these things? The little typewriters? So they're called free writes. It was my husband. He gave it to me as a Christmas gift. And I'm sitting there on the beach with this little free write thing. It's almost like a typewriter, but you can't edit it. It's kind of annoying, but it's for drafting purposes. So I'm sitting there writing, and I see everything kind of play out in my head normally. And I just thought it would be so funny to take that phrase. You guys heard the oh no, it's not me, or it's not you, it's me, the breakup line, right? But what if it was just sort of switched on its head? And that's how the whole thing started. And it was a guy breaking up with a girl, and that was, the first thing out of his mouth. And that's how the book began. So that was the first time where I was like, oh, that might be kind of fun to play with. And then just sort of started from there.
So it's so interesting. So at that time, you didn't know who Samantha was fully even. You just had this vision of she's getting broken up with.
Yeah, literally the table scene. I was like, I could see the table and the white linen tablecloth and the conversation, but I literally had no idea what the rest of the book was yet.
Have you ever approached Free Write for a sponsorship? Because honestly, this you on the beach, and it's it writes itself.
Have you ever thought about getting into marketing? Because I feel like that's a great idea, and I should have done that by now.
No,
So
do you have a degree in marketing from the University of Florida, however? Like,
yeah. Okay. Yes, I totally should have thought of that. I should. I'll put that on my to-do
still do
list.
it. Yeah. Time is now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
This whole journey has to be, I mean, it's really, to me, it's very magical that it's like you go from the beach, March 2022, writing your first line of this book, and now here you are, and you're talking about the book is out, you've been on NPR, you've had all these amazing events, you've got all this exciting stuff coming up. What has been the most magical moment in this journey so far for you? Like seeing the cover for the first time, when you got the call that you had a book deal, when did it feel like, oh my God?
I love that question. There's a couple moments. I would say two funny ones are when I got my agent and when I got my book deal, I was in grocery stores. Which, so, like, I feel like
shop every day.
Shop every day. And good news is just going to come. It'll be great. But I think, honestly, the biggest one for me, like the sweetest one. So my son just turned 10 in July. And he saw me write this for a very long time, you know? And so, like, whenever I would be like, hey, buddy, guess what? And he'd be like, oh, does someone want your book? Does someone want your book? And, like, the day that I got to say, like, when I got the offer from my publisher, and, like, his face when I was like, bud, guess what? And he's like, someone want your book? And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah. I, like, teared up. Like, he was in his bedroom. Like, I remember the moment, you know? And it's, like, just such a cool thing to see, like to have your kids see you strive and to see you work so hard for something and then for them to recognize how big of a moment. So like, even though that really doesn't have anything to do with like the industry, that would be the moment.
No, that's the most magical moment I've literally ever heard. Like, you're going to make me cry. Sincerely. No, I do think, and I don't know, I'm taking us on a bit of a tangent, I guess, but I do think there's something very powerful about the fact that like he saw you work at that. He saw you be creative, you know? I think for a lot of people, they see books in the stores and they don't necessarily know how they get made or what goes into them. And it's like your kid will grow up having known that and like having seen you do that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks.
So you mentioned the main character is Samantha, and when she returns to Florida, she returns for work, but she has to, as you said, like confront a lot of her past. There's her mom, is back in Florida, and she has a very difficult relationship with her. She's got, you know, this ex-best friend. She's not even really like friends with her anymore. They're kind of estranged. Then obviously she meets the best friend's brother, which is, we'll get back to that, but that's a trope I'm very into. So I really enjoyed that. So I was just curious, what was important to you about like presenting Sam's past the way that you did specifically? Because it is such a big part of the book that she has to go back and face all these things.
Yes, that's a great question. So for me, when I'm reading a book, the ones that I am drawn to the most are the books that look more like real life. I mean, let's be honest. So I love to sit in front of like a Hallmark movie and watch it. It's great, but it looks nothing like my life. You know, it's like I want...
You're not a small town baker.
It's always about the baking. Like, why is is there nothing else to do in a small town? Except be like the handyman or something.
And business is always booming.
Always. It's always Christmas. There's no seasons in Hallmark. So I just wanted my story to reflect real life. And while some of the things I have dealt with personally, some of them I haven't, but I don't know anybody who's not affected by sort of, you know, the heavier things of life. Like, you know, there's cancer and there's parents who were taken away too soon and there's friendships that fracture for reasons that you don't even know, you know, like that is something I think that people just relate to. And so for me in the story, it was like, it seemed heavy at times, but it was also like, gosh, this is so much more like real life. And I think for me, the books that I read that seem more like real life are the ones that stick with me and I think about, and that's what I wanted As a Last Resort to be.
Yeah, I mean, I won't ask anybody to, you know, out themselves because they may have family here. But, I mean, if you have a perfect family, raise your hand. You know what I mean? So, like, I love the fact that, you know, she comes from an imperfect family. And it's still, you know, it's loving in its own way. But I thought that did really reflect what a lot of people go through. And then to see that person find love and to see that person kind of be a better version of themselves by the end of the book, I think is really beautiful. And for Austin, that's the love interest, the best friend's brother that she meets down in Florida. For him, he's got this backstory where he, I don't know if this is a spoiler. Is it a spoiler, his backstory?
No, it's not a spoiler. You're good.
Okay. His backstory is that he, had a, very serious relationship since high school, and then his best friend took her. And so one thing I loved about the way that you handled that is that he is grieving his friend as much as he's grieving the loss of her, which just made total sense to me, that he's kind of like, yeah, I don't have anybody. I can't even talk to my best friend anymore about this. And I thought that lent him such depth. So how did you come up with kind of that backstory for him? What inspired that?
So one of the things I like to do in storytelling is take these sort of characterizations of people and flip them on their heads. And so you take someone who, the dad is the football coach of the local high school, and they're going to state championships, and the son's supposed to follow in his footsteps, and it's like there's something to be said about that type of person who grows up in that type of family and what they're supposed to do, and the expectations, the familial expectations that are sort of put on you. And I wanted to break him. Like I didn't, and like a lot of the romances I've read lately, the guy treats the girl like crap, or like it's really angsty and he's grumpy and he's this and that. It's like, I wanted to get away from all of that. Like I wanted to do something that was unexpected, and shocker, a nice guy is unexpected nowadays, It's like he's kind to, his family, and he's kind to people, and, he's driven, but he's not going to chase after his, family's expectations for him. And so I just wanted, I wanted things not to be easy for him. And so I set him in a type of family where the expectations were really high. And he just wanted something different. Not that the expectations were not high for himself, but like they just weren't the same. The definition wasn't the same for what he had and his family had. And so like, what if you take this guy and just like pull everything away from him, and then what happens? I was just kind of curious. I was like, I also read that book, Stephen King wrote it. It's called On Writing, and it's sort of half memoir and half craft.
I love that book.
Love that book. So he said, you have a character, and like, what could you do to him? Like, make it worse. And then he goes, okay, then make it worse again. And then like, make it worse again. And then before you publish it, pull one thing back. I think it's like how he says. And so it was one of those things where I was like, gosh, it'd be great if he lost his fiance, but like, what about his best friend?
What if we made it inseparable? What if it was together?
Right? It was like, what does he do? He's the kind of person that I wanted his character to shine through, even in those moments. Yeah.
No, I think Steven would be very proud. And I think
thank you.
Yeah. My favorite part about that book, by the way, is the fact that like he had just had that really bad car accident, like and so he spends a lot of the book basically being like, this sucks. Like I am in a lot of pain, and I just find it very relatable. I'm like, yeah, like of course you're writing about that a lot. And that's one thing I think I love about Austin is that I don't know what this says about me, but I love when a man is sad. But not when he's angry. Do you know what I mean? I want a sad man, not an angry man. So like Austin, he's lost his fiance, he's lost his, or his like longtime, love that he thought he was gonna one day get married and have kids with. He lost his best friend, but he's not angry, like in a really toxic way. He's mostly sad. And I love that about him.
But not like mopey sad.
No, not a mopey sad.
Just
no.
like,
and he's ready to love again. Do not worry. Like he is ready. He is ready.
He gets there for sure.
Right. So I'll just jump right to it because we're talking about Austin. I found Austin so swoony. I really loved him. And so I was curious. You already, I guess, kind of touched on this, but what makes Austin swoony to you? Or like when you're creating a character, specifically in a romance, you want the guy to be kind of a dreamy love interest kind of guy. What goes into that for you?
So for me, there's something very attractive about a man being very confident in who he is. And like I mentioned, these romances that I'm reading lately, you've got this like grumpy sunshine. It's always the guy who's the grump, and he treats everybody badly, and he's just got like an attitude. And I love the push and pull of witty banter, but it doesn't have to be like an angry banter. Like it
I don't like it, and I'm like, you guys don't like each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you speaking to each other like this.
Yeah, like it can be a clever and witty kind of a banter, and I think that was Austin. And also Austin's sort of my inspiration. If everybody wants to turn right there and wave to Justin, that's my husband right there.
Wait. I only just realized that they're only one letter apart.
Yeah.
How did we just put that together?
That was actually, I didn't realize that until you just said that. Oh, honey, look at that. That's hilarious. Okay, but I did ask my mom. I was like, Mom, like what? Like, why do you think Austin is like so swoony? And she goes, well, you write him without his shirt off for half the book. Like, what do you expect?
To be fair, that was, half the swoon. He's a not mopey sad, but the right kind of sad with his shirt off.
Exactly.
I'm only human.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious. So for Sam, one thing I love about Sam is that she is hyper confident, or hyper confident also, but hyper competent. I love a hyper competent character, especially when it's a woman. I just love that. Like, she is a absolute boss, and so she is as you said, like, she works in like a real estate development kind of property development field, and the whole book you're like, she is going to get it done, whatever it is. Like, she is the one that you want to get it done. How much research though did you have to do? Because now I don't know anything about property development, so maybe I don't know, but it felt so real to me. All the stuff that the due diligence and all the stuff they were talking about. I was like, how'd you do all that?
So I actually do have a bit of a background in like marketing, and I worked in restaurant marketing for a while, and part of that was developing restaurant brands. And so from a really tiny like sliver perspective, I knew a little bit about the development side, but I did actually ask quite a few people who are in that realm right now. And the same thing with the boating, actually. So Matt Putnam, Natalie's wife. Natalie, can we say that? Sorry, Natalie's husband. Different story. Yes, Natalie's husband, Matt, is a very good friend of ours. And he is like an amazing fisherman. So like all the terminology with that, I would ask like all the important like people who knew what they were doing. So I fact checked with a lot of that, but I did a lot of due diligence on the research stuff, just like Googling stuff or calling people who knew a little bit more than me, and just making sure that I had the general direction right. Yeah.
Yeah, if I had it, I would sell you like a $4 million property right now. I'd be like, she would know what to do with it, like, from this book. I don't have it to sell, but I would. What's your favorite scene in the book, and what made it fun to write? And I'll happily tell you my favorite scene in the book, and what made it fun to read as well.
Do you want to tell me your favorite scene first?
Sure, in case it's the same.
In case it's the same.
I love the scene. So there's a scene where Samantha and Austin are in the bar, and they've been bantering a little bit, flirting a little bit, but it's not gone any further. And his ex walks in with a friend. And he's visibly like uncomfortable, kind of like, let's just leave, let's just get out of here. And she's kind of like, oh, well, I bet that she'd really get a load of this. Like, I bet she'd really hate to see you with somebody new. And so they have to kiss to make her jealous. That was my favorite scene.
That is also my favorite scene, but for a different reason. That's kind of a spoiler though if I say what happens right at the end of that chapter. Is that a spoiler?
Do we care? Do we care about spoilers?
Do we care about spoilers? It's a tiny one, but it's also a funny story, so I'll tell you. Okay, so they kiss, but then they go back outside, and he like tries to kiss her again. She turns to the side and she pukes. That's my favorite moment. Literally the whole book. Like, that is my favorite moment. And funny tangent, so my editor basically begged me to take that out of the book. She was like, we just don't want to turn readers off, and like, if your main character is like, throwing up, that's kind of gross. And I was like, no, it has to stay. I'm like, I'm putting my foot down. I'll leave. I'll take the book with me.
There are hills that are worth it to die on.
That puking in the back of a bar is a hill to die on for me, apparently.
Well, and also, can I just say, going back to what makes Austin so swoony, one thing I love about him is, man is not afraid of a little throw up. He runs a ferry boat. He's seen it. You know what I mean?
Seen it.
It's been on him. It's been over the side. He is not afraid of it. And honestly, even as somebody who like wouldn't really particularly want that job, there's something I find very sexy and swoony about somebody who's kind of like, that doesn't bother me.
Yes. Ditto. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
I also love the side characters in your book. We were talking a lot about Ivy we have many Ivy stands in here.
Biggest Ivy fan back
Yeah.
there.
It's my spirit animal.
She wanted to make a T-shirt that said "Ivy is my spirit animal" for tonight, which I think is so great.
Yeah, Ivy is great. I loved Austin's parents. Honestly, felt very real to me. Something about like their banter over their grilling stuff. I was like, oh, this is just my in-laws. Like I know these people. I know these exact people. So I'm just curious if you have a favorite side character in the book and what made them fun to write.
I would say Ivy. There's something about her that just kind of sparkles for me. I don't know what it is. I think, and she's a mix of all my favorite things of all my favorite people put into like one fictional human being. You know, so it just, I don't know. She feels so real to me, and I think that's part of the reason I like her so much. I also really do like Robbie, but. Yeah, for a totally different reason. I don't know. You just have to have tension, and you have to have like, you know, the guy who screws everything up, and he's kind of that character. So
yeah, Robbie is very fun because he's kind of that like sleazy, you know, guy that she works with. Like this really does truly feel like a rom-com. It really does. Like if this isn't made into a movie, then somebody is falling down because even like you wrote like physical comedy really well. Like there's a lot of moments that just you can see them play out. You know, like even the moment you talked about with her like puking after the, you know, like really hot bar kiss. And it's like now we have this scene. It was perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm starting to run out of time because I'm just having like way too much fun. So I do want to send it to audience questions, but I'm going to ask 2 more questions of my own because I have the microphone, so I get to do it. The first thing is, I want to say, I especially love this line in your book. You said, I think there are super weird people that live everywhere. They just hide in other places, and in Florida, it's too hot to care. And that was kind of like your explanation for why we have such a reputation for being such a weird state and all that. And when I tell people about this book, one of the first things that I say is, I'm like, look, as a Floridian, this is why I love this book, is because it gets it. It just gets it, you know? And so I'm just kind of curious if there's something particular about Florida that you love, or a stereotype about Florida that you feel like you get that irritates you, or just how you thought about the setting for this book specifically.
So something about Florida that I love so much is that it's never cold here. I hate the cold so much. It just makes you so uncomfortable. And I think vitamin D is a very important thing that not enough humans get. So I think being outside and being in like the Florida heat is a good thing. I would say the thing that annoys me most about Florida and what people think is that they just think everybody's old here. And I'm like, no, we just tell everybody that so that nobody comes here. Because it's so beautiful and we want to keep it all to ourselves. Yeah, how about you? What do you think? What's yours?
I mean, yeah, people think that everybody's very old and either very weird, like it's the Florida man thing, which I'm always like, our public records laws are much more open, and that's why, you know, I get on that whole rant, you know? Or also the fact that, like, a lot of times the person's not even from Florida. Like, if you actually read the article, it'll be like, you know, he came from Ohio, he was here on spring break, and I'm like, he's not a Florida man. Like, don't put that on us, that's Ohio. You know, but whatever.
Exactly.
Sorry to any Ohioans, but you know. So my last question is, so you are also an actor, and I was curious about, first of all, I guess, like how that career prepared you for this, or what things, you know, are different about these 2 roles that you now have. And also, one thing this is my personal thing I'm fascinated by, is you recorded the audiobook for this. Which I just think is really cool, and I would love to hear about that process.
Fun. Well, okay, I'll start with the audiobook, because I already forgot the first question. The audiobook, that was so fun and so hard. Like, way more difficult than I could have ever imagined. So, a fun fact, every 3 hours of recording that you do, they only use 1 hour of it. So, every 3 equals 1. So, it was one of those situations where I was in there for like, you know, 2 straight weeks. I think I did like 3 or 4 days each week. And I would literally walk out after talking for 5 hours straight and have no voice. Like, I would have a headache. I'd be totally drained from energy. I mean, I have such a new respect for audio narrators. But at the same time, it was a different way for me to bring the story to life. And it was so cool. Like, I walked out and I was Googling, like, how to become an audio narrator. And I just loved it. And I'm like, I want to do this for everybody's stories. Like, this is so fun. Like,
It seems like it would be. That's why I was so curious.
Yeah, it was so fun. And I think the storytelling aspect, I remembered your first question. So the storytelling aspect coming into it as an actor, like I'm already used to sort of the beats of a story and like trying to communicate character arcs and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think it prepared me because I see everything play out as a movie in my head. And so I just kind of write down what I see play out in my head. And that's like literally like one step at a time. You know that saying where like you're in a car and it's foggy out and your headlights, like you only see like just that little bit. Mm-hmm. And then you have to just keep trusting that there's like a next little bit and hope that there's not a cliff there. Like that's what writing this book was.
There's a Wallflower song about that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And so yeah, like that's what this was for me. I just trusted that the movie would keep playing while I was like dreaming or randomly like, you know, playing with my kids. Stuff's just kind of happening and popping in my head. And then, yeah.
Well, it really works because, like I said, I mean, it feels like a movie. Like it plays out in your head so well. And because you did your own audiobook, you can make sure that like all the jokes land right, which is one of the hardest parts. Like about sometimes is you hear them read it and you're like, you know, you're doing a great job. You're doing a better job than I could, but that joke is not quite the way I meant it to sound. You know. All right, so let me open it up to audience questions because I'm sure a lot of people have different questions for you. So if anybody has any questions.
Hi, Whitney. Whitney's in my writing group too. We have lots. Will you raise your hand if you're a writer? Because we have quite a few. Like so many. Yay, I love this, Claire. Raise your hand too. There's lots of them in here.
So you kind of tackled themes of Sam's mom's being an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if you could tell us anything about kind of how you wanted to handle that sort of kind of heavier topic, or kind of what thoughts you went into when you wanted to like approach that.
Mm-hmm. So did everybody hear? She asked how okay. So for me, I think the heavier moments of life and showing grace in those moments where it's least expected was really important. And so what I wanted to do is take these moments that can be really heavy for anyone who's reading the book and hopefully show that, not that there's a different way to approach it, but just that there's a different way to look at things. And so I wanted to portray like Sam struggling with it because it's something that happened over and over and over and over again. And I think choosing to think about something different, especially addiction, is a really hard thing to do. But I wanted to show her, and that's like part of her growth is that like by the end, like maybe she does choose to treat it a little bit differently. We do have addiction in my family, and it's one of those things where like even I myself haven't gone on the character arc that Samantha has, right? Because addiction's hard, and so like it's a very personal thing where it's like you don't want to get hurt over and over and over again. And so to be able to treat that subject with a lot of respect and a lot of grace was my number one thing. And then I don't know, maybe it was like a cry to myself to try to be like, maybe I should do that too, a little bit, you know? It's just being very like honest with you guys for a moment.
Yeah. No, I always say that like I think our books tell on ourselves, you know, because sometimes you put stuff in the book and then it's almost not until you put it in that you're like, oh, actually I think this is something I've been, it's kind of chilling.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny how much of like characters how much you create in a character that like you wish that you could be and wish that you could do, and it's like you kind of live through them in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
Or I'll be like, the whole theme of this book is you can't white knuckle your way through mental health problems. Then I'm like, oh. Hang on a second, what have I been doing this whole time? Yeah. I'm like getting my character's therapy, and meanwhile I'm like, I don't need it though.
Not part of therapy. Nobody needs
that's
therapy.
Not for me. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, Caleb.
What was the hardest part of the book for you to write?
Ooh.
That's a great question. The hardest part. You know what's interesting is I do know the hardest part. I just wasn't expecting that question. There is a scene in the book where when Samantha comes back home, she runs into her ex-best friend, and it was in the coffee shop. And there is a scene where they sort of confront each other, and I remember writing that scene and literally crying in my computer. And I like the crazy thing is that I don't have a specific friendship that I had in mind in writing that. Like I can't think of like one that's fallen out that that was the influence to that. But I think just in general, like the weight of relationships when they fracture in whatever form they are, if it's a romantic relationship or like a parental one or a sibling one or any of that, and like what it looks like to come back to each other, like through grace and through kindness and like looking at it a different way. That scene just got me. Like
it was very cathartic to read.
Dang.
It honestly was. Because I think there is something about like when a relationship, when they've been out of each other's lives.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, maybe I'm projecting, but like sometimes you carry it, and it's something that you just have with you all the time. You kind of assume that the other person like must hate you or must think all these things or must, whatever. And so to actually have them be able to be face to face and like just kind of clear the air, it was so cathartic. So I'm not surprised that you would cry.
And I think too, it's like so often I have conversations in my head and I make up stories and it's like, oh, well, this has got to be true because of this. And it's a whole story that goes off on a tangent. And that particular conversation, like you realize that it really had nothing to do with the other friend, and it's like this whole time that heaviness was over that friend. And it was like, oh, wow, like just this interesting understanding of how things can look so different. Like the reality of what happens and then like the truth and the stories that we build for ourselves, just how I guess like damaging it can be, but at the same time, like when you like notice that and you put a name to that, like how cathartic that can be.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you been like, oh, my friend must be really angry with me and they must be mad at me and they must, whatever, and then you talk to them and they're like, I've just been really busy. Or sometimes they're like, I've actually been really depressed. You're like, oh my God, girl, me too. Like, that's why I didn't reach out to you. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Any other questions? The Ivy stand?
Yes.
Actually, I wanted to know how you came up with the pug correlation.
Yeah, you have to explain the pug correlation.
So that was just such a fun thing for me to do. I cannot tell you where that came from. I really don't know. I honestly, I don't have an answer. I don't know where that came from. It just became something where I think I maybe used a name or two and then used a different one and couldn't keep track. And I was like, well, let's just keep changing it. And then it was like literally 30. I have a spreadsheet with all of the different pug names. There's like Puglicious and Pug Daddy. And I think my husband came up with a couple too. Like it was one of those things where, I don't know, it just kind of grew on its own.
It was like a life of its own in the book.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, her, the sleazy coworker, Robbie, Ivy starts it, where she has like this little like nickname for him because he kind of sounds like a pug. And so,
He snorts and laughs like a pug. Yeah.
So sometimes now, if you like come up with a new one, are you like, damn it, because it's too late. I can't put any more in,
Oh God, no more editing.
City Quill.
Yeah.
And Ivy's book.
Any other questions?
No, you go first.
I was wondering, I heard you say that you demanded the scene with the vomiting stay in the book, which I definitely identified with. I don't know why.
Love that for you.
But it's relatable, let's just say that.
Love it.
I'm wondering if there's other scenes that got pulled out that you wish had stayed in, or conversely, like if there's,
That was my question.
Was that the same?
Literally, my question. Vomit is the hill. I love it.
Oh my God.
I swear that was
And you're both
We have an Armageddon Deep Impact situation going on. This is parallel development. Okay.
My favorite person. This is great. Yeah, that's a great question. So I can't think of any. So my first editorial letter, which by the way I read and then cried, but it's fine.
That's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's literally the only way to do it.
Yes. So they also wanted Vanessa to be gone, which was which I also said no to, so we kept that. But one thing that the letter challenged me to do, which I think was a beautiful thing that my editor Sabrina pointed out, was that she actually said, I don't know you that well personally, but it feels like you might be afraid of confrontation. And if you've read the book...
Sabrina.
I know. So she challenged to lean into the harder moments, like the darker moments, and make them even heavier. And she's like, every single time something bad tends to happen, you quickly tie it up. She's like, I want you to sit there. And so 2 of my favorite scenes came from that. And there's one where like I won't spoil it, but there's like a ticking of the clock that happens, and she sort of looks at some pictures, and that was a moment that got slowed down because of her, because I kind of breezed through that piece. And then there's another one where there's a community meeting, and a very funny thing goes on during that conversation. And that scene was put in after the first shot. That was like the last thing that was added to the whole book, because she wanted a little bit more depth to like Samantha's, like her brain, like how it worked and how she could fix things, and she was capable on her own, and like Austin really hadn't seen that, and so she just needed more depth there, and so she challenged me to do that as well. So those 2 scenes ended up being 2 of my favorite, and they were challenges from her to like dig deeper and make things better.
That's a really good editorial note, honestly, because I think in general, I think like as writers, you fall in love with your characters, and then sometimes, especially in like a romance, where you kind of want everybody to be happy and everybody's, in love, and sometimes you just don't really want to put them through anything, You're like, why can't we just be happy right now?
Do you remember, what was like the editorial note for you that you still remember in any of your books?
Oh, I remember all of them. I remember I've died on many a hill. I remember all of them. Yeah.
All of them. You don't want to give me one, just all of them.
Well, I'll give one example. So from my most recent book, Never Been Shipped, they have they were friends as kids, and now they're getting together again. But it's like they were just friends, but they did kiss once when they were like 13. And so I had the that little first kiss scene, and my editor wanted me to cut it because she said that it was she was afraid that it confused things. She was like, well, people are going to kind of wonder, like, well, why did they never get together then? Like, obviously there was something there. And to me, I was like, if anything, this kiss made it worse, because they each had different thoughts about it, and they each thought that they had messed it up, and they each, if anything, it actually helps explain why they weren't together sooner. I mean, like, literally all I did for like weeks was just like, my husband couldn't even talk to me because I was just like
ruminate on it.
No, he'd just be like talking to me about like, what do you want for dinner or something. I'd be like, because the thing is, John thinks that he wasn't assertive enough. Micah thinks he was too assertive, and that's why. Yeah, I was so mad about it, and I didn't take it out. It's still in there, and I stand by it. Yeah.
It's the piece there at this home.
I mean, you need it. Yes. The hills I've died on that are much smaller than that, I can't even tell you because they're embarrassing, but there are some that they're so petty and small, but sometimes that's the stuff.
That's important. Those are what makes the books like sparkle. Those are the things that are like, important. And make it memorable.
To me, this is one of the things that's really interesting about getting an edit letter, is that it almost like crystallizes for you how you feel about it. Because the thing that you're like, oh, I don't like that at all, I will not be changing that. It's like, I didn't even know I felt that strongly. And then other times there's things where like you would have thought like I would never ut that character, and you're like, I could cut her. Actually, you know what? Now she only has one sister. That's fine. It's just that easy.
It really is. Yes.
But you don't know until you're confronted with it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think we have time for one more question from Austin. I'm so sorry, Justin.
Can you talk about the first book that you wrote and how that prepared you for your second book?
Aw, what a sweetheart. Would you like to tell it because you were there? For all the tears. Yes, so very sweet. You asked about my first book. So I did, this is, As a Last Resort is not my first book, which I feel like this is a story that a lot of authors can relate to. I wrote a young adult fantasy that I tried to get an agent for, 76 rejections for that particular manuscript. There was something.
I'm still impressed that you have the number.
I definitely have the number. Well, Query Tracker also helps, so that's part of it. But I just, it was one of those things where like the story fundamentally was broken, and I wasn't sure what it was. But I was like, okay, well, I like reading romance. I'm just gonna like try this, and we'll see what happens. And that obviously was a very different experience, but. I think what the first book taught me is that, one, I could finish a book, which I think is a very, very difficult thing to do, because you are living 24 hours a day in another world when you're drafting. Like, you literally are having conversations with people in your
We
head.
shouldn't be driving.
No.
Honestly, they should not let us drive.
You really shouldn't.
Really should not.
It's amazing. Like, you live with other people in your head all of the time. And it's, like, so fun. But you also, like, you get really attached to them. And the reality is when you write the end, like, their story is over. And you don't get to live there anymore. And I think that's a really hard thing. And so it taught me that I could finish a book. But then it also taught me that, like, rejection wasn't the end of the world. You know, I could get up and I could try again. And I learned so much from that book, like just learning to write, like learning how to map out story structure in a different way, and like learning what the balance of doing, like, you know, like scenery description and more of the atmospheric stuff versus dialogue, and how much I need of each, and what felt right in a certain genre. And knowing that I loved dialogue so much, like the rom-com, I can lean into that so much more, and it works. But in the fantasy world, it didn't really work. Like it felt like it didn't fit necessarily. So yeah, I hope someday maybe to bring that back out and start completely from scratch and see, because I love the concept of it. I love the idea of it. But yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of like keep going. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the end if you get a no. Like, just like keep going.
Well, and even this being your second book is like hella impressive. Like it's honestly, it's incredible that, you know, 76 rejections, but like this is book number 2 and it's here you are, and that's crazy.
Thanks. Yeah, it's super cool. Very, very cool. And I had a very, very encouraging husband who not only encourages me to pursue what I love, but also is like, I'll take all 5 kids if you're on a writing binge. Go ahead to Starbucks and sit for 8 hours and do your thing. You know, he's wonderful in that respect. So
That is priceless.
yeah, amazing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out, and thank you to everybody who came to this event and supported, you know, a local author and a beautiful book. And we're gonna transition to the signing line. So Krista will be in the back signing books.
Where is your book? I was trying to.
They're over here.
Oh,
That-
good.
yeah.
Okay.
We have all of Alicia's books back here. And
Perfect. All of your books are back there as well. And I will say, can I do the Love in the Time of Serial Killers? Can you hand that to me really quick? Because, okay, so funny. When I first met Alicia, which was like a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that, I told her, okay, it is time. You are the funniest person I think I know, by the way. I made a comment to her, and I was like, gosh, you have like the best cover I've ever seen. I love this cover so much. But the reality is I finally got through the story just because I have too many kids and don't read anything. And this is one of the most amazing books. Like, you are a phenomenal storyteller, and you are so funny. Like, the wit that you hear right now is literally in this book. Like, on every line. Like, the piano's
Not on every line.
Almost every line.
Don't take that far.
Like, it is very, very.
There are some lines that are just there to just connect other lines. Not every line.
She's very funny, I'm telling you. So if you enjoyed tonight, go buy this book. Like, this is so great and so funny. And thank you for doing this for me.
Of course.
I
I'm
appreciate
thrilled.
it so
I'm
much.
very excited. And very excited for you. And if everybody could give a huge round of applause for Kristin Wollett. I'm going to stand there ovation.
And Nicole and Julia and her staff for having us here. We should have walk-off music. Do you want to sing? I heard you. No, you play. You don't sing. I sing. Anybody?
You're supposed to play the guitar.
I can't walk off to my own. Start singing and walk out.